record. So now we are recording, and the way I figured we'd do this, Les, I don't know if Tim mentioned anything, but I'm going to do a nice introduction to you, and I'm actually going to pin you on the top of the screen. So you are the main person, and that looks nice in my computer. And I'm going to give you a nice intro, and then you can, talk as if you've, accepted your award to go in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay. All right.
Already?
Didn't know I was accepting that.
Well, we are going to be proactive, and I'm sort of explaining it in my little blurb as well.
Okay.
So shall we? And you know what? If this doesn't work out, we can always do it again. So we'll see how this goes. But are you ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
All righty. Okay. Here we go. Hello, everyone. And I do have to read this because I've got quite a few notes. It is Tuesday, December 28th, 2021. And we have the lovely Leslie Freeman, Ontario Squash Hall of Fame nominee with us today. And I'd like to explain what's going on. In light of the situation we are faced with, I thought it would be proactive to have Leslie give an acceptance speech if and when, and I truly believe it will be when, she is inducted into the Ontario Squash Hall of Fame. This was totally my idea, and as we know, Leslie is very humble and was not sure about doing this, but I'm just so happy that she has agreed to. Plus, what a precious gift this will be to get the insights from such a special person who has done so much for our game off and on the court. Now, just a bit of background for you fans out there. Leslie, you won your first Ontario provincial title in 1995 in the Women's Open with Jennifer Smith. Your last Ontario title was in 2019, just a few years ago, with Mike Tanner in the mixed 60 plus. That spans 24 years, which is simply...
I think you mean Canadians.
Well, no, I went with the Ontarios first, I think. Let me check my notes here. Yeah, in 2019, it was the Ontario mixed with Mike. And then way back in 1995, I've got a lot of notes here. It was, let's see here, Jennifer Smith. Well, you won the Ontarios and the Canadians with Jennifer that year.
Yeah, but wasn't there an Ontario's before that?
Oh, there was. Yeah, it was a finalist with Kathy Reed in 92.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
But I mean, just talking, that's okay. It's good to get this back and forth, just to, get an idea of just your Ontario titles alone. Not, and I'm going to mention the others, but that's 24 years. Now, in that time, you amassed 22 provincial titles, 18 national titles, a US title, and 3 world titles, for a total of 44 championship titles. And you were also a finalist another 25 times. So your on-court record speaks for itself. What some folks may not know is that you were the co-founder and the convener of the Toronto Ladies Doubles T&D League, which is still going strong today. And you were the ladies Canadian captain of the first annual Can-Am doubles tournament in 2008 as well. And just to add one more thing, you were also recognized in 2010 with an Ontario Award of Distinction in Parliament by MPP Frank Cleese for your excellence in provincial, national, and international squash competitions. Like, wow. So as they say, without further ado, I will pass it on to a wonderful human being and an absolute dominant force on the squash court, Ontario Squash Hall of Famer, Leslie Freeman.
Thank you, Jim. And it's quite an odd thing to be doing this, but first of all, thank you, Jim, for nominating me and being so persistent in the nomination process through COVID and cancellation of the event. I feel incredibly honored to be recognized by the Ontario Hall of Fame. I think about all the squash players and builders and coaches who've been received this award prior to me, and I I certainly don't feel like I'm as deserving as many of those recipients before. However, what a great honor, and thank you very much.
Well, you are most deserving, Leslie, and my tournament achievements are pretty small, but I'm just honored that I was able to play 4 Canadians with you, and we won 2. So we didn't do too bad. And look, I know you are not yourself right now. We all know that. But what I do know that you realize is that you are just such an amazing competitor on the squash court and on that right wall. I mean, you were so calm and steady and focused and gifted. I mean, it really was something to watch. So I'm so glad that, no one will ever take that away from you, ever. And now it is etched into squash history and into the Ontario Squash Hall of Fame. So I think it's pretty amazing. And if you would humor me a little bit, I've got a few fun questions that I think people may be interested in knowing. And are you okay if I ask you a few questions?
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Do you have a best win or a best loss that comes to mind?
Well, it's hard to have a best loss, I think.
Oh, sorry. I meant best win or worst loss. Oops.
Yeah, I thinking about that question a lot recently, and you try and remember back, what did you say, 28 years or whatever. And I just think I had so many great wins with so many different partners and close wins back in the day when you played over points. And I had a number of my Canadian championship wins that came down to 4-4 over points in the 5th. And of course, to win those matches is a lot of luck, but it's amazing to win when it's so close like that. Those are great wins. I think it's a great win. A great win I thought was in 2006. Robin Morrison and I were played in the U.S. Nationals in St. Louis, and we were up 2-0 against Joyce Davenport and Sarah Luther, one of my all-time rival teams. And we ended up losing, and it was incredibly disappointing, having been up 2 and really feeling like we had the match at hand. But a few months later, we came back to Toronto and played in the Worlds, and we played them in the final of the Worlds, and we won. So that was a little bit of redemption. So that was a good win and a good loss, I guess, or a loss. I had a lot of great matches and great wins with different partners, and it was lots of fun.
Well, I think the reason you won so many of those close matches is you're just so steady and composed during the big points, and I witnessed that myself. But okay, now I have another question here: best partner, mixed or women's, mixed, whatever. And I know that's so tough for you to answer. I just looked at some of your partners: Jay Gillespie, Mike Tanner, Pat Richardson, Scotty Belmage, Mike Pernack, Todd Binns, Steve Heisey, Morris Clothier, Victor Berg, Donnie Benson. I mean, and then you had, Jen Smith and Lindsay and Robin and KJ and Karen and Annette and Annie Braley. I mean, you just had so many amazing partners. So we're going to pass that question over, unless you really do want to tell a favorite, but I think there's just too many. But maybe here's one that I always like to ask, again, all the matches you played, and you may have a few, is there a real sportsman-like player that comes to your mind that you played against, or you always enjoyed, your competition with them?
In the heat of the moment and in the heat of the match, I think competitively we're all tough players, and I think the great thing about our game and squash doubles is that when people come off the court, irregardless of how the match went on the court, the sportsman like behavior takes over at that point, and everybody puts the match behind them and moves on and has a social and sets up a social game for the following week. I think that that's the nature of our game. So can I honestly pick out one sportsman-like player? I would say no, but I think a big appeal of the game is how sportsman-like squash doubles is in general.
Yeah, you're so right. The culture of our game is amazing. And, I can honestly say, how much of a sportsman-like player you were, because, all the times we're playing, I don't remember you ever, doing any gamesmanship or arguing with the ref. So it was always a pleasure to play with you. And I'm sure your other partners would agree.
Well, I was pretty good at giving my partners the, evil eye if I thought appropriate.
Well, that's part of the game right there. That's why you were so good. Now, did you have, like you mentioned your rivals there, were they your biggest rivals, that team from the US, or did you have any other rivals in mixed or women's?
I think over the years, the team that I considered, the biggest rival, was probably, well, the person for sure is Joyce Davenport. I have the utmost respect for her. She was the toughest player to play on the right wall ever, because if you just made this tiniest mistake, she took advantage of you in a nanosecond. She and Sarah were such a good team together, still are, played for so long. So over the years, so many years, when I think about how long I played them, the last time I played them, I think was in the 2018 Can-Am. Many Can-Ams played against them. Joyce came up and played with Jay in the last mixed doubles that Jay played in. Mike Tanner and I played against them in the final, and Mike and I won. I just think Joyce specifically, but Joyce and Sarah as a team, huge rivals, over the years.
Okay. Well, that's a great insight, Les. And speaking of over the years, you've had a number one fan, just unwavering fan, a real rock by your side, and that's Tim Mallory. And wondering if you wanted to speak about him.
Well, of course, Tim and I met at the Mayfair Club, back in the 90s, and the rest is history, of course. But he was always there for me, supporting me every single match, whether it was the first match of the tournament, the last match, if it was the finals, if we were lucky enough to get there. We always joke around about him carrying my bag, but he did, and that was great because I'm tired. He knew my game and knows my game better than anyone, and was really able to, critical times in critical matches, not just for me, but for my partner, pick out, give us pointers and suggestions that, in many cases turned around matches. So there was that, but just all the emotional support. And, I often didn't, I was emotional after losses and emotional after wins, both, but he was always there consistently supporting me. So, it was a great asset for me to have over my squash career.
And I remember he even grabbed me that wrap for when I tore my hammy in the finals against Helen Jan, and he got me that wrapped me up, and luckily we squeaked out the next 2 points and won that one.
You limped through it.
Boy, oh boy, that was a fun one. Okay, let's move on. if you were going to choose a partner for the Century Tournament, which young gun out there, which young guy out there would you choose? I know you love to watch squash too, and you're a very astute student of the game. So does anyone come to mind?
Well, I have to say that I haven't really kept up with the young guns so much. And one thing, I know about the game has changed for sure. The way the young guys and the young girls are playing the game is so much different now. And, the one thing about playing with the young guns is that, for me to adapt to that new style of play is difficult. I've always, been playing better with a partner who has a classic style. And so maybe he might not consider himself a young gun, but somebody that I really always wanted to play with over the years, and it just never worked out with Scott Stoneberg.
Ah, okay. Well, that's good. Good feedback. Let's see here. Do you have any pregame superstitions or routines before big matches?
Well, I got very nervous. I don't know how many times Tim heard it, where I'm like, I can't play the match. I can't get out of bed. I'm sick. I'm just too sick. Something's wrong with me. And I am sure some of my partners have seen it as well. And so it wasn't so much a routine as I had to get myself past that. It really was anxiety, and it was. I think it was more in my later playing years where my expectations were a little bit higher, and so that put a lot of pressure on myself. But other than that, people will laugh that know me well, that they know that I have my favorite socks that I've been, I don't know, you said I was playing for 28 years, that socks might be 20 years old. I have, those are my championship socks. I have to wear them on championship day.
Wow. Well, I never saw you get nervous, and I didn't know about the socks either. What color are they? Just white socks?
They're white. Well, they're a little bit gray now, I'm sure, but.
All right. Well, that's great, Les. Let's see here. Any funny thing or strangest thing that you remember from any tournament? I know there's lots of funny things happen at different events. I don't know if anything pops out of your mind. I got maybe 2 or 3 more questions, and then that's it. But I thought I'd throw that one out there.
Well, I think I don't know if you have on your list, but probably, for me, one of the most memorable, and I don't know what you would call it, strangest events, not strange, but it kind of like the hit that, the Toronto squash scene, heard. When Gary Waite hit me, full on with his forehand squash ball in my butt back in 2000, people still come up to me today and say, oh, I saw the picture of your, the bruise on your butt. And I can remember it clearly, that match. I was, it was the finals of the World Squash. I was playing with Victor Berg, incredible young player, against Gary Waite and Jesse Chai, and totally at my fault. I was in the wrong place, and Gary turned on a forehand. I knew I was going to get hit before I got hit, because the intake of breath at the it was just like an unbelievable sound. And then, of course, I got hit. Thank heavens it hit me in the butt, in those days especially, because I don't know if it hit me somewhere else, I might have been in trouble. But by the end of the match, we ended up going to 5, and by the end of the match, you could see the bruise through the 2 layers of my white squash skirt.
Wow.
But Tim, gallantly took pictures of the whole bruise process and had a little clipping of that in his wallet that he toted around to men's squash league for a number of years. So
No, that's classic. Wow. And what year was that?
2002.
And you won that match, did you not?
Oh no, we lost it. We lost that match. Gary, in the fifth game, Gary brought out one of his trick serves, and I didn't adapt to that serve very well.
Well, you did win once though with Victor Berg, though, did you not?
No.
Maybe that was the finalist I saw that you played with Victor. Okay, that's what it was. Wow, that would have been a great match to watch. Where was it played?
At the cricket club.
At the cricket. Wow.
I did get a very big compliment after the match was over. When we came off, Michael Pernak came up to me and said, "Leslie, I'm so proud of you that you didn't start crying when you got hit."
Wow. Yeah, and Pernak knows a bit about that, getting hit with the ball. So that was a compliment indeed. Yeah. Good stories, Les. I love talking to you like this, talking squash. This is such a pleasure. I'm really enjoying this, and I know people will love to hear this too. Did you have a favorite club to play at, Leslie, other than, Mayfair? That was your home club, but
yeah, I think I liked, I liked playing at the cricket for sure. I think the court that probably suits my game the best is probably the old, the B&R court. Of course, I haven't seen the new court at the B&R yet. But those wooden walls certainly served me well for my lob and my serve, at those.
Yeah.
So
that's where we won our first Canadians on that court.
Yes, we did.
B&R.
Yeah. So I think those, but I always, the energy at the cricket club was always great. There was always lots of people around, lots of, camaraderie, and I like that cricket court too.
Yeah. So many great clubs, and I know you played in so many tournaments, and you were a real big supporter of the Convener Cup and the Marianne Caldwell for so many years, and they were really tough draws too, and you've won those as well, and they were like opens. But was there a favorite tournament that you liked or you looked forward to playing every season?
Well, I love the Conveners for sure. That was a great, I don't know, it just gave me an opportunity often to play with somebody that I would maybe normally get to play with. And it was social, but it was tough. I mean, tough draws. And I don't know, the way you ran that tournament, you didn't let anyone get out of it. So, there was many matches, and just the feeling, that everyone's sitting so close behind the courts. And I think the Conveners was probably one of my favorite tournaments for sure.
Oh, it's so nice to hear. And I promised Eric Baldwin earlier this year during the pandemic that I'm committed to bringing that tournament back, because it's been a number of years, and we are going to bring that tournament back. And your name's on it a few times on the trophy. I think with Mike Pernak once, and maybe with Donnie, but you're on there a few times. So. Yeah. Okay, what other good question do I have? Mayfair Parkway versus Mayfair Lakeshore. That's probably an easy answer.
I don't know how easy that is, actually. I played a lot up at the Parkway, and I really enjoyed playing up at the Parkway for many years. And I even was the captain of the ladies team up at the Parkway when we were trying to get more ladies teams involved in the league. And so we split the girls up and had some of us playing up the Parkway and some of us playing at the Lakeshore. So we'd have an extra team in the league. I didn't, over the years, I played a lot less squash at the Lakeshore than probably any other club in the city, which sounds bizarre, but, I kind of chose to go and play where the players were. And so that meant, going to play at the cricket, or, driving out to Burlington to play with, Karen and wherever, going to the Granite. And I mean, how many times did we see you there, Jim? You know, where I'd come and play with Annette and Robin and Tammy. So for me, I chose to go and play where I could get, you know, my best competition and best games for me. And
Sure.
unfortunately, that wasn't the Lakeshore.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
many, you know, and I went many times to squash parties or events, or I would go down to the Mayfair Lakeshore with him and meet new people, and you know, or they'd say to Tim or they'd say to me, "Oh, so do you play squash too?" You know, and I think part of that was because, you know, people didn't really see me playing a lot at the Lakeshore, or at the Lakeshore. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, I think I'm down to the last couple of questions. I was just going to ask, you know, with all your years in squash, it's kind of a double question. One, you know, what advice would you give any young player? And, you know, is there anything you do differently?
Well, I think for the young players, today it seems like everybody wants to be super aggressive and hit winners and go for their shots all the time. And I think I've always preached patience on the court and setting up the play. And I actually recently had this conversation with Steph Hewitt about the change in the game. And I think that my advice to young players is that don't force it, set the play up. You have a partner, make sure that you are not putting your partner in jeopardy. It's a doubles game, and that's how it should be played, as a partnership.
And anything you do differently in your squash career, thinking back?
Well, maybe in the early days, have one less glass of red wine, you know, on Saturday night.
You never drank on the Saturday night?
Oh, no, I maybe I should have one less.
Oh, okay. Okay, you put that into perspective very nicely. So I automatically thought you abstained on Saturday night. Okay, one less glass. I like that one.
Yeah.
All right, Les. Well, listen, I guess we'll wrap it up. But you know, I think I can. Did you want to say something else?
Well, I just wanted to thank you very much for doing this, and you know, got a lot of memories flowing for me, and you know, brought back great memories looking over the list. I have a picture book that I created with pictures, and you know, thank you very much for making this happen.
Well, I'm just so glad we were able to make it happen. And, you know, I think I can speak on behalf of the squash community when I say that, you know, we love you, we respect you, and we will never forget the impact that you have made on our game of squash, on and off the court. So thank you for everything and all the beautiful memories.
Thank you, Jim.
Mwah.
All right, I'm leaving.
All right, I am going to stop the recording. Here we go. Stop recording. There we go. Stop.
Play if we play. And Jay.
Sorry. I'm just going to back up a bit, Les. I just turned the recording on for a second. So I was just looking through the list. We were just chatting after our interview, and I noticed James Hewitt was one of the guys you won the Ontario Mixed Open with. And I did forget to mention him, and I see Peter Knott and a few other guys, but you were saying that was a big match with James, because no one said he could win with anybody other than Stephanie.
Well, yeah, so that was, and it was 2007, and not, you know, Steph was playing in a pro tournament, so James came and asked me if I would play with him in the Open. I was 52 at the time.
Wow.
And so we both had a little bit to prove, I guess. And actually, so, you know, recently at the Jesters social function, James and I were talking about that match, and he said it was a great win for him. We played Eric Baldwin and Marnie Baisley in the final, and
Wow.
They were domineering me on the right wall, that's for sure, and taught me a big lesson about getting the ball over to the left side and getting James. Anyways, it was a great win for James and a great win for me to win the Open, you know, at
52. That's incredible. What was the score? What was the score of the final?
can't remember. I don't know. I know in the semi we played Caro, and I thought that was a good win. I would have been happy just with that, but yeah, we won against Eric and Marnie, and so the rest is history. But
Wow.
but it's nice to know that James remembers that as an important match for him in his career too.
Yeah, he sure does. And I'm sorry I didn't make it to that Jesters get together. It was all the weekends I was away on my ice fishing trip, but I heard you were there. It would have been great to
Yeah.
see you and everybody else. But anyways, I don't think I forgot any of the other guys that you played with on this list, but I know there's been so many. So if I did forget anyone else, I apologize. Karen Meek, that was another woman you played with. I think I mentioned her, and Annette, and
I played Victor Harding.
oh, Paul Gardner. Oh yeah, and Victor Harding, Paul Gardner. Well, you
Paul
had to
Gardner.
play with Victor Harding. If you're a mixed player, everybody's got to play with Victor at least once.
Paul Gardner, that's the only mixed doubles tournament he ever played in his life.
And he won the mixed open, Canadian
won.
Open. Amazing. Which one did you play with Victor?
I think it was like 1996 or 7. We were runner up to Karen Jerome and Dave Loveless, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Canadian Mixed Open, 96. Boy, you got a great memory. Oh, this is fun. We could talk squash all day long, eh, Les?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I'm going to stop the recording again here. Where is it?
Okay.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, that's enough.
Hey, Leslie.
Back.
Oh, long time no see. Okay.
Exactly.
I forgot a couple of questions. So we're just gonna, I'll edit this all together. But anyways, I was wondering, what is it that fuels your passion when you're playing squash? Was it the quickness of the sport? Was it the social? Was it everything? Like, what really gave you that passion to play squash? Because you were a top-notch tennis player, badminton player. And what was it about squash that really got you going?
I mean, I love how competitive squash was. I mean, I'm a very competitive person in, probably everything I do. I loved how competitive it was, but I think I really liked the nature of the doubles game, especially, the setting up the play, the angles, the reading your opponents. I really am very analytical, and I guess it appealed to me because of that. The game appealed to me. It was extremely interesting to me to be able to figure out how to win.
Perfect. Yeah. So much strategy involved. And then, of course, one that I'm always very interested in is, how did you even start playing the game of squash?
Well, I really owe that all to Bert Keane.
Bert Keane, the Bert Keane.
The Bert Keane. I was playing badminton out at Regency Rackets Club in Brampton, where I grew up. After I graduated university, and I played competitive badminton as a junior and then in university, and came back and was playing badminton at Regency. And Bert was the young squash pro there, and basically came and dragged me off of the badminton court and said, you have to come and start playing squash, and which he did. And then after he left, Rob Lefko was there, who you know very well.
Yeah.
For a while. It was really Bert. Bert came, and we remained lifelong friends, until his passing. Very, very good friends. And he really was, he didn't let it go. I mean, I was like, I have no interest in playing squash. Why would I go back in that dingy court, back in the bowels of the club? I'm a badminton player, but he persisted, and the rest is history.
Wow, you talk about another great ambassador of our sport, and just that little thing that Bert did with you and the impact it made on your life, and so many other people too, right? It's all connected. So that's amazing. I did not know that story. That's really incredible. Any other sport passions or passions other than squash?
well, recently, just in the last few years, that like everyone else, I, gravitated to pickleball.
Hmm.
That's a great sport. And, I feel a little bit sad that I wasn't able to, really take that up, as I think that would have been another good, good sport for me. Growing up, I grew up in a team sport environment. My folks were really big softball, baseball people. And so I think that was probably my other big sport was I played competitive women's softball my entire, from, my early teens through to, my late 20s, I suppose, on many championship teams, played with my sisters, and my dad was a coach and my mom was a coach, and that was a real
Hmm.
family. So that was probably my other passion sport, I suppose, was softball.
And is that the fast pitch underhand softball or what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great game. Wow. Yeah, what position did you play?
I played a lot of positions. Mostly in my early days, I played second base, and the latter days I played first base. But
Hmm.
I kind of, played where, I pitched a little bit, and I wasn't a physically strong pitcher, but I was pretty, consistent and accurate.
Oh,
And they-
no, it's interesting. And yeah, you would have definitely rocked the pickleball world less.
Yeah.
The pickleball is not as good without you having having you in their world. So anyways,
Yeah.
I haven't played it yet, but I know a lot of the guys are picking it up and it's
Yeah.
fun. So
it's a great activity. It's fun. It's fast. It's, a lot of strategy, and it, people who maybe poo-poo the name and poo-poo the look of the sport, once they're out there playing. A few years ago, Tim and I were able to go to the U.S. National Championships in Florida. I was on when we were in Florida, and we watched, players that are U.S. collegiate level tennis players, very strong, physical, young players playing because they play for money down there, pickleball. And the game is incredible at that level. So, and there, the pickleball center in Naples, Florida has 80 courts.
wow, that's
you know,
amazing.
You go there on a Wednesday morning and it's full, it's packed.
Mm.
So the growing sport for sure.
Yeah, I know a lot of the A doubles guys played all through the summer. Cedar Springs, some of the Granite guys. So yeah, it's quite a sport. But anyways, I think that's all the questions that I have. I won't call you back anymore. We've covered everything.
All right, good. Well, thanks again, Jim.
All right,
Okay.
thanks so much. I'm going to stop recording.